In the picturesque northwestern corner of Switzerland, not far from the French and German borders, lies the small municipality of Binningen. This quaint town, nestled just outside the larger city of Basel, was home to Christina Jackovic, a 38-year-old international model whose life was cut short in a manner so gruesome it shocked the nation. Christina's story began with promise and glamour. In 2003, she won the Miss Northwest Switzerland pageant, a stepping stone that would lead her to even greater heights. By 2008, her beauty and poise had earned her a coveted spot as a finalist in the Miss Switzerland competition. But Christina was more than just a pretty face. She was a woman of ambition and entrepreneurial spirit. As her modeling career flourished, Christina made a savvy transition into coaching. She founded her own business, aptly named Catwalk Coach, where she mentored aspiring young models. Her expertise was evident in the instructional videos she produced, where she confidently shared tips on how to exude confidence and sensuality on the runway. If you want to look confident and sexy, she would advise her students, take a step aside, turn, and lean back slightly. If you're wearing a dress, take one step ahead, lean back to highlight your leg. Christina's personal life seemed to be flourishing as well. In 2017, she married a man known in news outlets only as Thomas. Together, they built a family, welcoming 2 daughters into their home in Binningen. From the outside, it appeared that Christina had it all: a successful career, a loving family, and a beautiful home in an idyllic Swiss town. However, beneath this veneer of domestic bliss, a dark undercurrent was running through Christina's life. Witnesses would later reveal that Thomas had a history of violence towards his wife. There were accounts of him pushing Christina against a wall, his hands wrapped around her throat in full view of others. These incidents of strangulation, it would turn out, were a chilling prelude to the horror that was to come. On February 13, 2024, the facade of the happy family life in Binningen was shattered when Christina's remains were discovered. The details that emerged were nothing short of nightmarish. Swiss investigators quickly determined that Christina had not simply died. She had been brutally murdered in her own home, the very place that should have been her sanctuary. The crime scene told a story of unimaginable violence. Christina had been strangled to death, her life extinguished by hands that should have protected her. But the brutality didn't end with her last breath. In a gruesome act that defied comprehension, her body was dismembered. The killer had used an assortment of tools, including a knife, garden shears, and most disturbingly, a jigsaw, to cut Christina's body into pieces. As if this wasn't horrifying enough, investigators discovered that parts of Christina's body had been ground up using a hand blender. The remains were then left in a chemical solution, presumably in an attempt to dissolve them and erase all evidence of the crime. The level of violence and the calculated steps taken to dispose of the body spoke of a crime that was not just passionate, but premeditated and cold-blooded. The day after Christina's remains were found, Thomas was arrested. His initial story to the investigators was a web of lies and half-truths. He claimed to have found Christina dead in their home back in January. Panicking, he said, he decided to cut up the body in their laundry room instead of calling the police. But the facts didn't add up. Medical investigators and crime scene technicians quickly determined that Thomas's confession was inconsistent with the evidence. In March, Thomas changed his story. He admitted to killing Christina, but claimed it was in self-defense. He painted a picture of Christina as the aggressor, saying she had come at him and he feared for his life. He even alleged that she had previously attacked him with a knife. But this new narrative flew in the face of the evidence and the testimonies of those who knew the couple. As investigators dug deeper into the couple's past, a pattern of abuse emerged. Witnesses came forward with accounts of Thomas's violent behavior towards Christina. The image of the doting husband crumbled, replaced by that of a man with a history of domestic violence. The strangulation that ended Christina's life was not an isolated incident, but the culmination of a pattern of abuse. Thomas's behavior following his arrest only added to the prosecution's case. Officials noted his noticeably high level of criminal energy, lack of empathy, and cold-bloodedness. His demeanor during questioning and his changing stories painted a picture of a man more concerned with saving himself than grieving the loss of his wife or considering the impact on their children. The brutality of the crime and Thomas's apparent lack of remorse led to speculation about his mental state. Some reports suggested he displayed sadistic or sociopathic traits. However, legal experts pointed out that the nature of the crime, the strangulation, the methodical dismemberment, the attempts to dissolve the remains, all indicated a level of premeditation and awareness that would make an insanity defense difficult to pursue successfully. The case against Thomas is strong. His confessions, though changing, place him at the scene and acknowledge his role in Christina's death. The physical evidence and the testimony of witnesses corroborate the prosecution's theory of a premeditated murder rather than an act of self-defense. The history of domestic violence provides a motive and context for the crime. As the legal proceedings continue, Thomas remains in custody. In a recent development, he appealed for release, but a federal court denied his request. During this hearing, more gruesome details about Christina's murder and Thomas's state of mind came to light, further cementing the case against him. The tragic story of Christina Jackovic serves as a stark reminder of the horrors of domestic violence. It shows how a life full of promise and success can be cut short by the very person who should have been a partner and protector. Christina's journey from beauty queen to successful entrepreneur and finally to victim of a horrific crime has captivated and horrified Switzerland and the world. As the case moves forward, many questions remain. What will become of Christina and Thomas's two young daughters, now left without a mother and with a father accused of an unthinkable crime? How will the Swiss justice system deal with a crime of such brutality? And perhaps most importantly, how can society better protect women like Christina from domestic violence before it escalates to such tragic ends? The loss of Christina Jackovic is not just a personal tragedy for her family and friends. It's a loss for the modeling world she graced with her presence and the young aspiring models she mentored. It's a loss for her community in Binigen, where she was known not just as a former beauty queen, but as a neighbor and friend. And it's a loss for society as a whole, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of domestic violence. As the legal proceedings against Thomas continue, Christina's story serves as a rallying cry for better awareness and prevention of domestic violence. It highlights the need for support systems for those in abusive relationships and the importance of taking threats and incidents of violence seriously, no matter the social status or public image of those involved. In the end, the tale of Christina Jackovic is one of beauty and horror, of success and tragedy. It's a story that forces us to confront the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors, even in the most picturesque of settings. As Switzerland and the world watch the case unfold, one can only hope that justice will be served for Christina, and that her tragic fate will spark changes that might prevent similar horrors in the future. The legacy of Christina Jackovic should not be defined by the brutal manner of her death, but by the life she lived, her successes, her kindness, her role as a mother and mentor. As the legal system works to bring her alleged killer to justice, those who knew and loved Christina work to keep her memory alive, ensuring that she is remembered not as a victim, but as the vibrant, ambitious, and beautiful person she was. In the quiet streets of Binigen, where Christina once walked, there is now a palpable sense of loss and disbelief. The community grapples with the knowledge that such a horrific crime could happen in their midst. But amidst the shock and grief, there is also a determination to honor Christina's memory and to learn from this tragedy. As the case continues to unfold, it serves as a somber reminder of the work that still needs to be done to combat domestic violence and protect vulnerable individuals. It challenges us to look beyond appearances, to reach out to those who might be suffering in silence, and to create a society where everyone can feel safe in their own homes. The story of Christina Jackovic, model, entrepreneur, mother, and tragic victim, will undoubtedly be remembered for years to come, not just for the shocking nature of her death, but as a catalyst for change and a call to action in the fight against domestic violence.